Welcome to Your Way Forward, a podcast where you can expect to find wisdom for uncertain times. Our podcast is hosted by me, Nicole Artabasy, along with my friends, spiritual teachers, and intuitive soul guides, Jenny Fairbank and Stephen Ross. Tune in each week as we unpack some of the hardest things that we're navigating in the world, from shared societal challenges to deeply personal life experiences. Our desire is that each soul who joins us experiences truth, love, and hope as they take their steps forward in life. Oh, and I should mention, we aren't just sharing our thoughts and opinions on here. Jenny and Stephen will be live channeling their spirit guides who will respond to your questions in our Ask the Guides minisodes. If you find our episodes helpful and worth sharing with a friend, feel free to spread the word. We're not here to gain a massive following, but rather to be a space for people to find guidance and light on their journey. Now, let's get into it. Well, hello again. Hello. Welcome to Your Way Forward, another episode that we are launching today. Very fun topic, if I can. Stephen, hi.
Hi,
Jenny,
Nikki.
hi.
Good to be with everyone.
Hello, good to be with you all always.
Well, this is a topic today we have been probably talking about since our very first episode. Of course, we're like, this is the basis for why we do everything. This is the main area that keeps us going, right? This is meditation. We're going to unpack meditation today, and this is our favorite topic because it is vital for living. It is vital for surviving. It is vital for growing, and I think there's a lot of information out there. Meditation has become a hot topic, over the years. And even though it's always been, people have been doing it since the beginning of time, right? This is a part of just as, I think, a part of eating, breathing, sleeping. It's that critical to our life. But before we dive in, anything on your minds or hearts, Jenny, Stephen, just life going on, your temples popping up. Oh my goodness, every day I see pictures.
Yes, I'm very excited to take the pictures every day at the end of the day after the workers leave and we go down there and see what they did. It's been really an adventure so far, and it's only been a few weeks, really. But yeah, I'm really excited about the temple and all that we can do there and how we can help people heal and dive deep within themselves. It's very exciting.
Well, I can speak for all of us that know you when we say we're excited too, because we plan to all be around and join in on all the things that will be happening there in your temple. And I guess Karen and I will be there next month.
Yeah.
So can't wait to see the progress and help in any way we can. So exciting. And Stephen, I know you have been very busy lately, just all that you have going on.
Yeah.
How are things on your side?
I'm very fortunate because I get to be in transformative mindsets with people day in, day out in my work. And I'm always encouraged. My cup's half full. I see your cup over there. My cup is half full a lot because people dare to dream, and they dream like what if, what can be. And that gives me a lot of encouragement for the times we live in. So I get to be in that energy. It's a little bit of a bubble. It's an oasis, I must confess, but to be in that and see people all over the country and saying, what if, that warms my heart.
Yeah.
That's beautiful because we are such co-creators with this energy. And if we start to dream and allow ourselves to vision and imagine the greatest life we can create that. We can make that happen.
Yeah.
We have to trust it though.
It's so, I feel like I'm living that. We all are living that, right? But it's been lately, Karen and I, we were living on this beautiful property, which we half the time call it a zoo. We have the animals and workers and people doing things. And, between that and our business that we're running, it's full on sometimes, right? And it's, we have a lot of dreams here on the islands, and it's so funny to be like, okay, we're dreaming this. This is our desire. Okay, we want to sell our house. We want to, get a specific type of house with a specific type of land. And we're like, okay, so we dream this, but then it's like, how do we not attach to it, right? And so we're staying in that place of constant, I feel like it's that constant meditative, like, okay, we're just going to carry this with us, energetically put it out there. And, but you're not wrong, Stephen. I mean, all that's going on, it's such as we've talked about in the paradigm shift episodes, like there's so much happening and changing that, we're a unique generation, I think, that's going through this right now, or I guess there's multi-generations that are going through this, but it's, it's curious. I guess that's the only word I can use right now. Not even, I wouldn't even say it's all negative. It's just a very curious time.
For sure. And actually the dreaming and the ability to dream is, if I can segue, if it's okay, is tied into visualizing and the muscle you can train through practice. And so you can dream, like I think you got like some kind of equipment up here where you can have a canvas and you can create a visual and you can dream through that. And I believe it's kind of an important part of our equipment, our imagination. So that's a part of visualizing also. What we can get into that, but it's a
laws of attraction.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that really brings us to what we're talking about today, meditation. And before we go in, I need to share how much my life has been changed over the past few years with you guys, really teaching me how to meditate. And I say that because I think, meditation has become such a unique, if it can be commoditized, people will do it, right? If it can become something that people can make money on, people will do it. And obviously, meditation is not new. It's not a new thing. It's not, a 2000, 10, 2020 something, deal. Obviously, it's been going on for the beginning of time, right? And, I have gone personally and growing up, I used to pray a lot. And as I grew up, realizing like, okay, I need something that can help me to breathe. And I can honestly say that I never really established a daily practice until I learned through you guys. And this is disclaimer, not a plug, but if you really need help, there's a course that Jenny and Stephen so diligently put together, a self-guided course called Learn to Meditate. And it is absolutely phenomenal. And it kind of demystifies what I think I thought it was and how to do it. I mean, you see these yogis put their, wrap their feet, when they're sitting in Indian style, but even, all these different positions, and it can be a little daunting. And you guys unpacked it so lovely that it was so digestible and manageable, and you gave the context around it. And so for me personally, and they didn't know I was even going to share that, but I needed that so desperately, and I can tell the difference. And Karen will even say to me, she's like, have you meditated today? Right? She can tell immediately if I have or haven't, because it transforms my energy. It transforms my state of being as I flow through life. And I just feel tears coming up. I'm so incredibly grateful to have that tool. It's just been, it's like a drink of water every day. And it's something that we don't need to pay for to access. And so today I would really love to give this gift that I've been given to anybody out there. And you may, as you're listening today, you may have a practice already. And if so, then I commend you to keep going. And maybe you get to a place where you're falling off the wagon or struggling through your practice and like, oh, I need to do that. And it feels like one more task on you. And first, I just want to say we relieve you of that, because that's the last thing you need to feel is more pressure to meditate. But hopefully my desire today, walking away from this episode, that everyone listening will feel encouraged and excited to dig in and expand their practice or learn how to do it and feel ultimately the fruits for themselves, but also to give away to the world.
Well
So
said.
that's my selfish desire here. So I guess let's just start with kind of some basics for those who may not have a practice at all and are curious and maybe have a concept of it. I'd love for you both to just share what is, either or of you, I guess, what is meditation? What does that mean?
Jenny.
Go ahead, Steve.
Oh,
I mean, we both could say so much. Go ahead,
there's
Steve,
so
you
much
can
to
start.
say on this. I want you all to imagine that the state of awareness that we're in day to day is really in a reactive place a lot of the time. We're reacting to our senses, we're reacting to information, analyzing it, and we can be, caught in control, anger, different kinds of emotions. But I want you to imagine that you can lift or raise your awareness through an energy current, but you can lift
Mm.
it into something higher. So when you're in a meditative state, you're in a state which is beyond that. It creates peace and calmness and
Mm.
love and joy. There's different states that you can become. And the word that seems to sit with me right now is absorb. You can actually like be in this higher states of vibration and frequency, and you become it for a while. And the world will take you back
Mm.
down away from it, and you meditate again and lift back into it. And I'm lifting my hands for those who are in the video because you're not just lifting up, you're also expanding into something beyond
Mhm.
your head. And it gives us a greater expanse of awareness. And you can see love as part of that. You're connecting to something more. So it's easier to be in those states of time. I'll pass it to Jenny
Mm.
from there.
Wow.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's good.
It's it's already within you. All of the peace and love and joy and bliss and that higher state of consciousness is you. And it is about remembering that, tapping into your divine self. And it is a reunion with God. And we'll use that word because it's a universal word. Spirit, I like that one too. But we are uniting our little spark of divinity with the greater spark, the greater
Mm.
divinity of God. That is the point of meditation,
Mhm.
is to remember your divinity, wake up to that, expand your awareness, as Stephen's saying. We rise up in our awareness and we expand it. And so I often tell clients, because I've been, oh goodness, I've seen over the past 2 decades incredible shifts in people when they start to meditate, and myself included, and all of my loved ones who meditate. My husband has been a meditator now for a good 12 to 14 years. And and what seems to happen is, and I put my fingers always together like this, kind of intertwining. There's the ego self, the little self of self-identification, and then there's the soul self, the higher self, the true self. We have all these words for it. They're intertwined, and we're so caught up in our little self that we forget the bigger self.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
time, meditation, we become that conscious observer. We're more
Mhm.
aware of the conscious observer, and we split apart just a little bit to become that conscious observer more consciously,
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
aware of that part of us, and we can observe our life more easily and gain more control of our energy and become less reactive naturally. It's one of the first things that I notice, well, that people share with me when they start the practice and they're doing it even for a few weeks. Wow, I've noticed I'm not as reactive. I'm not automatically getting agitated. There's a space
Yeah.
between your external experience and your response is what you start to have. Instead of reacting and just being, as we always use the word, triggered, we start to pause and say, okay, how do I want to say, what do I want
Right.
to say in return? And
Mm.
there's just a long list of changes, and this isn't, just to really be clear, this is science. This is
Yep.
not woo-woo spirituality. This is actually, are actual hundreds now, I believe, of research that's out there over decades now,
Mhm.
of what happens in the brain when we meditate regularly, what happens in our awareness, how we change fundamentally. Literally, our brain, the
Mhm.
structure and function of our brain changes through a practice. And it's not, you don't have to sit for hours a day. We're talking 10 to 20 minutes a day. 10
Mhm.
minutes, the research says, is the minimum where brain starts to change. So your prefrontal cortex will thicken. Literally, it thickens,
Hmm.
which is, we call this the executive brain. It
Mhm.
changes. We are malleable. We have neuroplasticity. I mean, I could go on and talk for hours. This is like a very important
Mhm.
subject
Yeah.
because this is how we change our our whole world. Because if
Mhm.
you meditate, if one person meditates, it filters out and you are affecting thousands of people. There's a saying, right? Change yourself and you change thousands. That's not a joke. That's real. And it's not selfish to meditate. It's not about time. It's not, oh, I'm too busy. There's a Zen proverb that says, and then I'm going to stop talking. A Zen proverb that
No, this is good.
meditate 20 minutes a day. And if you're too busy for that, meditate an hour a day.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Go ahead. I can just
There's
go on.
I want to add in one more thing
That
as a
so good.
here is
Even, yeah.
we have meditated. There's two definitions of meditation we were taught. There is the higher state of awareness that you become, and I mentioned, and Jenny beautifully expand on. And then there's technique. So there's a science here, a subtle science, a hidden science. There is a particular way to do it. And I say science very deliberately because don't believe us. Try it, experience it, observe it, repeatable again and again. Inner peace, the science of inner peace, you could say, would be a good place to start, and a technique to get you into that state. And so it's two definitions. Is the way we were taught. It's both technique and a state of being.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm proof, right? There's many of us out here that can say the proof of this. I mean, it works. Like, I have been known as a reactive person, and Karen noticed, I think, pretty quickly when I started meditating, like, just all the shifts. I have friends that had noticed, like, how different I am. And they're just like, oh, wow, just slower to, it removes a lot of this emotion that we just typically live in, and we marry our emotion as us when, like you're saying, Jenny, the observer part. It's like you can notice what's happening and not let it end you or whatever it happens, when you're going through something. It's a different, it's like you operate out of, you're a higher, like, I feel like when I come out of meditation, like, you're just operating at a higher frequency that I think the word I would use is like, I'm less affected and unbothered, right? I have my little thing up here, nuggets of when I was unbothered today. And it's true. And I think that's, yeah, we get really worked up, and it really physically has horrific effects on our bodies. And that's the science of why I mean, they've said there's so many studies, I've read some of them, but like how they can look at two brains and know nothing else, and they can tell if they meditate or not.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So let me ask you this. When it comes to meditation, there's a lot out there. I know there's wonderful platforms. Um, you know, you talk about the science of it, and like, let's talk a little bit about meditation versus mindfulness, meditation versus prayer. We'll start with mindfulness because I've known a lot of people that say, oh, this is my meditation. Or when I do this, that's my meditation. Oh, it's basically moving meditation. I do this in this meditation. And one of the things that I noticed very quickly in our old home is I never meditated laying down. I never meditated in my bed. I never, meditated while on the treadmill or running outside like that. Even walking, I didn't meditate. I had a very specific place in my home that I would go and sit, usually in the sunshine. And I suddenly, like, I don't know how to say this other than I would crave that spot. Like that spot that I would sit in my upstairs loft area, and it became a very sacred sanctuary for me. And here I have this outdoor lanai that I sit as well, like same spot every time. And I think there's a lot of people that just because there's so much information flooded at us, right? What are your thoughts around that? Because I think to reap the benefits, and it's not, you don't do it just to reap benefits, right? It's a state of living, but there are benefits. And can you share a little bit about your thoughts around the technique without completely sharing the entire course that I learned from you?
It's a big answer.
Which I wish we could.
It's a big answer.
Yeah, it is.
Bear with me because I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this and answer your question at the same time. I use an image, you guys, with students to help them understand what's happening here. And this is based on the energy body and the mind. The reactive mind you talked about, think of it as a storm, okay, in the Gulf, like a hurricane going around. And then that's your reactive ego self. Thoughts go round and round each day. But at the center of the storm is a still point. So when you're at the center of the storm, the sun shines again. Like, it's people in the South, in the US, will talk about being in the eye of the storm. One woman told me just a few weeks ago, it's a very dramatic experience when it happens. And so the sun shines. The light of your soul, the light of peace shines for a while. And my thinking is when you're meditating in that moment, that your center gets brighter and bigger and fizzles out some of the things swirling. So you're now more, so key word for everybody to learn is centered and going within. And I'm using that deliberately because yoga, we follow the teachings of yoga philosophy called the 8 limbs. And one of them is to close your eyes and turn your senses in. So saying that, like, there's a process of interiorizing here. And the other principle, I won't mention them all, but is to sit upright, still, asana. Now, it doesn't just mean yoga postures. It has a double meaning, which is very common. It also means to be in comfortable stillness. Sthira Sukha Asana. It's a famous yoga sutra. So once you're in that place of sitting still, upright, there, you're now have the building blocks to go into a meditative state, you see? So yes, there's mindful walking, mindful all kinds of things out there, and moving meditations, and I like them. I benefit from them, to be clear. But there's a distinction of capital M meditation that we learned, which is sitting still and interiorizing. That comes. If I can say one last thing, and I'll pass to Jenny here, but I'm not a Buddhist, so I don't know mindfulness that well, and I want to be very careful of critiquing different paths and stuff. I'm of the opinion that capital M mindful that the Buddha talked about is something very profound when you're in a state of non-judgmental awareness. It might be different to the commercialized pop mindful. I want to make that distinction. I think something very profound he talked about. But for now, like, you're not walking, swimming, that can be meditative, but you are sitting in stillness. And so when you're in that still place, that is beyond all activity. That's where God and spirit is. Does that make sense, you guys?
That's
Oh,
good. Yeah, thank you.
yeah. Because if
Jenny,
you,
what are your thoughts? Yeah.
if you don't interiorize, then it, you cannot experience that bliss within in us. And so that means what interiorizing means is shutting down the senses, shutting out the external world, and dropping in. And so if you're walking and saying you're meditating, or gardening and saying you're meditating, you're not releasing, you're not dropping off in you're engaged in the external world. So you can't really be fully inside of yourself. So I agree with Stephen. Those beautiful practices that are really impactful for people, and mindfulness practices. It is different than meditation and stillness and going inward to close everything down, to expand your inner light, and remember your divinity. It's very different. And so, like, there's the practice that we teach and we have learned that is not, we have not created it, we have been taught it, that's very ancient, is there are stages, and relaxation, one of those stages, the first stage. You have to have a relaxed body and mind to be able to interiorize. And sometimes that requires yoga asana, going for a walk, moving some of the energy out. Breath work helps to relax the nervous system in the body so that you can go to the next stage. So there's relaxation, and a lot of people get to the relaxation stage and think they're meditating. I'm lying down and I'm thinking about my day, and
Right.
that's great, but that's not meditation.
Right.
That's
Right.
introspection and relaxation. Beautiful practices, and a part of your path, or a path of growth, for sure. And so there's a lot of misconception about what meditation is. And it is an art and a science. And there are lots of ways to get to the mountain. So it isn't that our way is the only way, and the only right way by any means. We are not that way. There are many ways of meditation that are interiorizing and doing those things. We have our own specific practice based on yoga techniques. So, yeah.
And I can say this technique has been wonderful for me. And I think about, I was just thinking about, we have a lovely pool out here that I like to swim laps in. And a lot of times it'll just be me out there at dusk or something and, nobody in sight, all the workers are gone or whatever, and I'm just swimming laps and that's a very calming state. But my mind is still going and I'm still having to think about my next stroke, right? There's still an activity that's happening. And, that's not, I mean, I can be mindful with what I'm doing in my activity, but I notice versus sitting in the lanai where I sit on this one specific place when I meditate, I mean, even the birds, like even the noise from the birds clear out of my head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I go so inward that, that it's, um, and I used to think back in the day, like, oh, you can't, your mind can't do nothing. Like your mind can't go into this blank mode. And it's not that it does, but there is a level of, I mean, you could explain what's happening. I just know what I feel and experience. But basically, I'm not, my thoughts aren't running. Like I'm not thinking, and sometimes they are, and that's when you kind of refocus. But one of the things that I learned from you guys and your practice and what you've been sharing with the world is those stages. And that you even can continue through those stages until you kind of reach this super conscious state, which I think at time maybe there's been moments I have, right there you go into this more elevated state. It's something like none other. People that have experienced acid trips or drugs, weed even, like, you can feel the altar and it's very different than that because you're completely in your, there's nothing inhibiting you at the moment.
And it's simple. It's simple to learn. Um, just for clarity for folks, we talked about relaxing. We tend to think relaxation. What's the difference between meditation? Well, relaxing some and releasing tension will allow you to get to the next stage, which is concentration. And so again, very particular to the yoga method is that you're not concentrating on your laundry. That's what I remember someone
Mhm.
saying that, one of our teachers.
Right.
You're concentrating on a higher aspect of reality, a higher principle.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
could
Right. Right.
be visualizing a saint or a flower. But in this case, the way we've learned it is through a mantra, which is in English, you can do in Sanskrit also, but we're saying, I am peace with the breath, you see? So there is a concentration method. You're identifying with this vibration, this feeling, and gradually absorbing it. So there's a process into that we call it getting there stage. And so there needs to be
Mm.
some time getting there. And then the last part is being there. But that's that second stage is concentration.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, guided meditations, right? Because I know, Jenny, you have helped me. You've given me some of your like guided processes early on. I mean, I use them, religiously, no pun intended. But I was very attached to having, because it was, I feel like in the learning stage of how to get into my practice. And it's funny because now I don't really use them. I don't at all,
Mm-hmm,
actually.
mm-hmm.
Like I have my
Great.
own
Good.
practice that I just kind of go into the state. But I know a lot of people do. They have apps on your phones, they have Calm. There's all these different apps that people use. So talk to me a little bit about the purpose around it. And um, let me just say to the audience, we are not poo-pooing on anybody's current practice if you are using an app, if it's working for you. But I have my own personal thoughts and experiences with it, and I would love to just hear Jenny and Stevens. So Jenny, if you want to share a little bit.
Well, first, going back to what I said earlier about interiorizing, and Stephen mentioned this as well, interiorizing is about shutting the senses off. Yogananda calls it shutting down the five sense telephones. I love that. And if we are actively listening to something outside of ourselves, it can keep us out of that interiorization stage. However, when you're new to the practice and you need some support, and I encourage, I mean, that's why we have recordings, is I encourage people to listen to that because people want to remember, it's a big thing. I want to do it right. I'm not doing it right. That's a lot of times what people say to us, right? I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing it right. I can't stop my thoughts. There's all these blocks that people have and think that they need it to be perfect or they need to have some major experience. I'm not seeing angels. No, 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 no. None of
Yeah.
people have expectations and that creates a block. So
Uh-huh.
No
Interesting. That's a good thing to say, Jenny. Sorry to interrupt you, but people have expectations and that creates the block because you're so focused on it that you can't even relax enough into the process to experience it.
Exactly. So we're not against recordings. It's just ideally you want to be in complete silence within the with the external, and not saying you can't be in nature and have birds and all of that. Yeah, that's great. But when you become interiorized, as you experience, Nicole, those sounds go away. Those external sounds just melt away because you're so focused inward. And that is the process of tapping in deeper to your super conscious state.
So there's a weird predicament when you're a meditation teacher on our path, because anytime I'm teaching, I'm pulling people out of the practice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of paradoxical in a way. So if you're centered and you're gone in and I say, visualize a river, I have just made your mind click and now I've pulled you back out.
Yeah.
And so as a meditation teacher, if you can imagine, if I've got a room of, let's just say 20 people in a class and they're all pretty new, what I'll do is I give them a verbal cue. I don't say anything then. That's the practice of me not talking. So again, I'm a teacher who's like, the practice is me not doing anything. It's kind of funny. But because they're new, I'll give them maybe 2 minutes and then I'll give them another little droplet. And that will help them stay there. So it's fine because they'll already be coming out and scattered. If I show up for the same class next week and I got 20 people who've been doing this for years, I'm going to give them the instruction and maybe I'm going to be quiet for 10 minutes, give them one little reminder and then be quiet again for 10 minutes. Do you see? So I want them to talk. I want to talk less. So I'm saying it to people who can understand this, but and this is where it gets a little funny. One Indian teacher, a Hindu man I studied with for a while, he very adamantly said there's no such thing as guided meditation. It's philosophically impossible. Because as soon as you guide, you're not meditating. Do you see? So it's a kind of weird thing.
Right. Yeah. I think I agree with that.
And so you can see it.
That aligns.
You can see it. So I tell people all the time, look, I don't want to be, again, if you get benefit from it, keep doing it, folks. But if someone is describing something continuously and giving you that, it's arguable, debatable if that's even meditation. Do you see?
Also the music. A lot of people want to listen to music. Well, that's distracting you. You're being pulled out.
Right.
It's great. Listen to that when you want to relax. Listen to that. And other times, meditation it's like going into a vacuum, ideally. Like I'm shutting it all down. I'm going in and I'm connecting with God.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. As you may have heard, people who've listening to this may have heard, the difference between prayer and meditation. Prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening.
What's the difference between prayer and meditation? People that maybe have prayed their whole life, but they're like, well, what is the difference? And even I have never really known, but that makes total sense.
Yeah, asking and receiving, right? So I just want to give this one point because you mentioned God and some people might struggle with that a bit. What are you talking about? But I want you to imagine when you go within and your senses turn inwards. When your senses are outwards, you leak energy. So when you turn in, I want you to imagine there's this divine generator of light. That's your authentic self, your divine self. So when you turn in, you are now connected with that and it will regenerate you. Do you see? It brings life force. It brings awareness and clarity. So you can take one way as God, or to me, you could also just say, just imagine light and you're absorbing it. So it's, again, very good for your health. That was my point I wanted to make.
I love that. I love that. And that is, because I can say, growing up in the very specific Christian faith, right? We did, a lot of prayer, a lot of, spending time with God, doing devotionals. And, as I've grown up and it kind of moved into still knowing the same God, the same source of everything that is, when I sit down to meditate, I can experience that same divinity, the same God, the same source of everything. When I meditate, it's still the same closeness. And so that's why when people are like, oh, are you still a Christian? Oh, you do some of this Eastern stuff. And I'm like, there's no difference. This is the same God I've always known as a little child, as today as an adult. Like when I sit there and go through my meditation, that's the same source of everything that is. But you're right. There is a difference of like writing out your prayer list to God versus sitting and being with God and being in that place together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you both for that. And, I want to talk a little bit about, this is a funny one, but I know when people are really exhausted and they need rest and they're like, okay, I'm going to go just meditate. I'm going to go lay in bed and meditate. And they may fall asleep and go into this state. And you know where I'm going, Stephen? You're laughing because, I learned a lot about the different conscious states from you guys. And what does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to be in our subconscious? What does it mean to step into that super conscious state? I used to think like that was a very sacred place when you sleep. Now we need sleep to live, like it's a requirement, right? But I learned through you guys, sleeping is not the most elevated state of consciousness. In fact, it's the lower, right? So, Stephen, you're giggling, so I have to let you, like whoever wants to share. So when people talk about meditating, let's tie this to meditation, and you kind of zone out into a sleep. What's happening to us in that process?
Well, the fun answer is you just need to rest. You could use a nap,
true.
like I don't think we sleep enough or take enough naps. I think I'm laughing because there's a kind of a joke. There's a fine line between sleeping and enlightenment. Like it's like a horizon line, a really thin. Your consciousness goes down or up. You see, in that way. That's making me giggle, I think, more than anything else. But
Yeah.
there's a point, if you're sitting up straight and you're not leaning against the back of the chair and you're in that you're trying to lift your energy up, you see? And that helps a lot of it. But it's also the mental state. And sometimes you just nod off because you do need a nap, So I want to just say that out loud. But Jenny, I know you're passionate about this.
Thank you for that,
Yeah,
Stephen.
yeah.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Give permission to sleep,
Just
everyone.
take a nap.
Listeners, if you're tired, take a nap.
Sometimes you need a nap.
Don't pressure yourself to
So
meditate.
it's important. It's important. Jenny, I know you're passionate about this, so I want to let you come in because you're really passionate about this stuff.
Yes, well, there are these different states of consciousness, and typically when we fall asleep, we're falling into subconscious state.
Right.
There are, I want to say also, people do have super conscious dreams, and they are pulling out of, their physical. Our soul doesn't need to sleep. It's just our physical body. Our brain needs a break. Our physical body needs a break, but our soul never sleeps. And there are people who can go into that super conscious state while their body is resting. But most of us drop right into subconscious, and we don't want to be in subconscious when we're meditating because we're in the repository of all of our experiences, and it's very attached to our identity as a human. And that is what we're working on, kind of letting go and connecting with our infinite selves, our divine being. And so that super conscious state is like it, we can be in that even when we're, say, in the shower and we have an aha moment. That is a download, as we love to use that word now, for receiving insight. People think that they are discovering something. It's just attuning to their higher frequency. Everything already exists. There's actually no invention or discover. We're discovering it because we're remembering. So it's all remembering our divinity. We're not acquiring anything.
I'm saying this for no promotional value, but if you are curious, walking through the Learn to Meditation, you even take us through those states of consciousness. And it is like something that's burned in my brain now that like I just know, and it's been so incredibly helpful because I don't think when you have understanding of something, it helps if you understand what's happening as you're going through it versus just kind of blindly flowing through something. Oh, I can't stop my thoughts, or, oh, I guess this is a good enough process. There's a formula. And I'm a person that likes to have a formula. I like to have a path. I like to understand the steps. And it's, we don't have to mysticize it so much. It's a part of living.
Yeah.
It's a part of just like eating or sleeping, right? Like this is a part of being. And just to take all that like mysticism away from it, there is a formula. And whether you use the formula that Jenny and Stephen have put out through their teachers and understanding, or you have another one that works, like I think you're saying, Jenny, that's okay. But there is typically a formula that can be helpful to getting to that place that we all want to be, is that peace.
Yes.
Right, because this is a thing that people don't have a practice, and they just say, I'm just sitting, and all you're doing is sitting and thinking, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, but we think enough. We think enough.
If you don't have support or any kind of practice and you just sit and I'm just going to sit and meditate, and you don't know. That actually happened to me when 20 some years ago, and I was in yoga therapy training, and my mentor's like, okay, you have to meditate every day. Okay. That was it. Like, that was the only meditate every day. Oh, I don't even know what I'm doing. Okay. And it was very, very difficult to not have anything. It was before all this stuff that's here now, all the
Right.
technologies and all the other things. And before I found my real, my path, and it was it was like impossible. So
Yeah.
I understand how, it can feel like, oh, this should be easy, but it's simple, but it's not easy because we have allowed our thoughts to take over. We have lived in subconscious states. Most of us, we do, just the patterning, just habituated. And to break that requires effort and attention. And that is not easy for people, because
Right.
we are working with this thinking mind that wants to keep going into the same patterns and directions, and we're pulling it back to having to concentrate, and then we get pulled away, and then we pull it back. So it's like I say, training a dog to sit. You got to do it 1,000 times to then they listen, and that's what you're training your brain to listen to you.
Yeah.
Very
And to
different. Go ahead,
yourself
Steve.
more quickly is one of the big muscles that you're going to learn. So this brings us, I think, to something important for people is the misconceptions about what meditation is. And so it's not just like, I have to give a lot of people bad news. They'll say, well, I sit down, I close my eyes, thoughts come in, I look at them, and they go away again. And I'm so sorry, my friend, you're daydreaming. It's not meditation. And it's like, oh, I
Oh,
didn't know.
yeah.
No, I thought you just closed your eyes. And no, 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 no. You have to elevate your consciousness, you know? So I tell them that.
Right.
And then this other misconception, which I'll try to get on, not get on my soapbox too high on, is this idea of clearing your mind. And I tell everyone, it is
Mm.
not clearing your mind, because the Western interpretation is to control and force out
Mm.
thoughts. No surrender, they're coming. It's the ability to return to center through your technique. And that's the training. That's the dog sitting down again and again. And it'll
Mm.
wander off and think about stuff. It thinks about pleasure. It thinks about controlling analysis, old emails. It'll rewrite them. Just come back. That's why you need a technique to come back. So there's all these misconceptions that it's boring or passive or just sit. That's not correct. That's because there's no technique. You see, at least that's my interpretation.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I mean, I'm a very active person, and I'll just say, if I can do this, anyone can do this, because I am, as these two on the call know me so well. They always tell me, slow down, Nikki, slow down. If I can do it, I'm pretty sure anybody can do it. And yeah, I think the goal today too is just to demystify. Like, there is actually a formula. It's daunting to think you have to just go out and just sit with your thoughts. Like, we already do that.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with getting help and understanding a path. We've talked a lot to the listener today who maybe doesn't understand what meditation is or hasn't experienced it in this way, or the details that we're talking about. But what about the person who um, has had some semblance of a process, but they really fall off the wagon, right? They really struggle to keep their practice going. So maybe they do know a practice and it's just really hard for them to keep it up. What do you have to say to that listener today? What's happening?
Well, it's funny to be the witness, for me to be the witness of clients who will start to meditate, and they'll do it for a while, and then it's usually, well, I went on a trip and I got busy, and then I forgot. I haven't doing it in a couple of weeks or whatever, however long the time it is. First of all, I can notice right away, usually when I talk to them, you haven't been meditating, have you? Well, no, blah, 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 blah. Yep. Okay. I can feel the energy. We all know this, right? And
Yeah.
then what I love is this is the only time I think it's okay to take a break from meditation, is to see the difference between when you meditate and when you don't, because they can feel it. Oh yeah, I'm not feeling myself. I don't feel right. Yes. And words are really difficult to to express this, because it's such a deep feeling and knowing that something is off.
Mm-hmm.
feel right. There's not, reactivity can come back
Yeah.
again. Old patterns can come back again. And it's okay. So if you've fallen off the wagon, so to speak, in terms of your meditation, today's a new day. Start again. It's not too late. Pick it back up. And I had this one client, it was so apparent. He wanted to do he wanted to do a test. He wanted to test himself. I'm not going to meditate for a full month because I just want to see what it's going to be like. I said, all right,
Interesting.
I don't recommend that, but go for it.
Brave soul. Yep.
See how it goes. And it was a disaster for him. I mean, all these old things kept coming back because he had this issue with feeling victimized, like why everything bad happens to me. I'm the bad luck. It's always bad luck. So he did this experiment, and at the end of that month, he said, I am never stopping again.
Mhm.
I see what this has done for me and what this does to me, because it doesn't seem possible. We're just sitting here, like, doing nothing, essentially, focusing, and, we're not doing much. Yet it is so vastly impactful to our lives and the people
Mhm.
around us. It is palpable. So don't give up. Please get back on the horse. Get support if you need it. Ask for guidance if you need it. You are not alone. There are a plethora of people out there who teach meditation, who know what's going on here and how it can help you. So just never give up. That's what I say.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There's two
Stephen?
two other things I want to just add in here. I agree 100%, Jenny. You're right. Um, two or three things. One would be is to create something like a mini sanctuary for yourself. And this is
Yes.
very
Right.
important.
Yep.
Like just a simple table, a guest bedroom, a corner of your bedroom, whatever you can get your hands on, with an altar, focal point, the right cushion or chair, depending on how you sit, and it is all teed up, ready to go. That would be like a simple thing because it beckons you to and have a candle to
Mhm.
light, whatever something simple. It would probably be
I experienced this. I'm a testimony
yeah,
here
yeah,
of
yeah.
this.
That's a big one. And then the thing that seems to come to me as I'm listening to you guys is the body is the access gate. So when I say that, I think I mean physical yoga. So it's good to have a few basic yoga stretches in your back pocket, a forward fold, a twist, because sometimes it's just like sitting to meditate is almost daunting. Like the mind almost says like don't.
Mhm.
But there's someone like, you know what, I can do tree pose or I can lie my
Mhm.
back and do a twist. And sometimes just that a little freeing of that tension and energy and stress,
Mhm.
even just a little bit, and then sit to meditate. And I find that helps. And I'll throw one more in and I'll pass it back to you guys. But in our path, we talk about devotion, and this is where the spiritual part, this is ultimately a spiritual process. And I don't mean religious, I mean connecting to something. And so we need some kind of like inspiration or something, just like it draws breath and life force in. So it could be a passage from the Bible if you're Christian, could be a quote of something, it could be music played that really lifts you in chanting. And just a little bit of that can go a long way to opening your heart, if that makes sense. I find that that's like three tips I can think of.
Yeah. Well, and in the course that, I took with you guys, you talk about the phase, right? Because it's a formula of the getting there. You're
Mhm.
getting to that point. So just to encourage everybody out there, if you haven't had a practice or you're trying to get back to it, it's not just 1 to 100, right? You don't just go from like a chaotic meeting or driving in traffic or whatever, and you go inside and you sit down. Now you can, and I think you should, but go down and immediately you're dropping into this place and you're elevated and you're all of a sudden in the subconscious state. And it's all like, there's a process of getting there. We know there's like the body has to relax, as you said. I think the stretching, oh my gosh, that's so huge, right? Physically getting your body to a place of being able to get to this state, is so critical. Jenny, do you have anything to add there before I have another question I'd like to ask?
Yeah, well, Stephen mentioned the concentration stage, and then the third stage of meditation is the being there stage,
Mhm.
which we call expansion. And in that stage, you let go of the concentration technique, and then you're hopefully in a higher state of awareness, in a super conscious state. And this is where the art comes in of the meditation, where you can visualize Maybe you're in a cathedral, or maybe you're in the nature, or whatever is the most peaceful, loving place for you. You can visualize being in the center of peace, whatever that looks like. You can bring an affirmation if you're working with a reprogramming of a thought pattern. You can just chant in your mind, Om, or whatever you want. But there's the art of that where you're in expansion and you feel that you are peace. Not that you're feeling peaceful, but you actually are. And so that's a really powerful place. And sometimes is argued that that's when meditation really begins, is when you're in the expansion phase. But you have to get there to be there. So the other part of it, I'll just say this last thing is I like to share with people in your life, when you focus on being before doing, be first, then do. The doing becomes so much lighter because we all live busy lives. We all have a lot going on. We're all very productive in our own ways. We can be really even more productive if we're in that calm, centered state. As I mentioned before we hit record, like one of my favorite sayings is being calmly active and actively calm, which comes from Paramahansa Yogananda. But that's the goal, is to live a life where we're centered and we're calm and we're moving and we're doing a lot. Yet we are in a center where we're actually, it's doing with ease in a way. So be first, then do. That's what I'll say.
So can you run through those stages for everyone listening? So the way that the formula, and I hope that's okay calling it that. It's helpful, I think, to the brain. The steps of the stages. We'll call it the stages that you go through into the place of meditation. Can you walk us through those real quick again?
Yeah, I'll have a go this
Go
time.
ahead.
So yeah, there's three. The way we've learned this is there's three stages to the meditative experience, and the first we call relaxation. So that is part of it. However, we're somewhat strictly taught sit up straight and don't slouch. Like we have a term self-realization, which essentially means to be in superconscious state. And our teacher said a bent spine's the enemy of self-realization. So that tells you a lot, like how much this importance was. I always tell people in my classes, it's like an antenna, you want to get it up in place and you'll get the signal download. It's kind of like that.
Yep.
So relaxation, we are releasing tension that might prevent us from being in that expansive state. It'll be in the body. We do a little body scan. We can prep people to turn their senses in and start listening within. So that's the beginning part. Now, the concentration isn't grim, tight jaw, holding on for dear life. It's a relaxed concentration. And we do this thing. It's kind of quirky, but we raise the eyes. So the eyes are closed, but they turn up slightly. They don't cross. And I found I teach a lot of people, and it's a game changer when you lift your gaze. And if you're daydreaming, your eyes will slip down and they'll wiggle back and forth in your subconscious, basically. Then you lift them up a wee bit. Anyway, that's concentration. You're concentrating on the higher principle. And you do that for about 10 minutes or so. And then when you let that go, you don't rush off because you're missing the best part, which is now when you identified with peace or calmness or love, now you can sit and just be in those vibes. And this is the being there. And it's very expansive. We use imagery. And I want to say to everyone listening, depending, no matter what your path is, you can change the imagery. If you love to see Jesus sitting with the disciples in a sanctuary, go for it. If you want to have Buddhist monks next to you, it's all yours. So we don't interfere with that. So you can artistically create that, and you're centered in it, and it's expansive and it reaches out, and it's very, very natural way to do it.
That is, so 1 is relaxation, 2 is concentration, 3
Expansion.
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 Expanded states.
That is, and I took down a couple notes here. I think you said something just now, Steve, and I had to write my note because I was like, I'll forget this. So in that state of being, so I want to touch on this for a second because it's so important. many of us, talking to myself here, deal with negative self-talk. And the more you agree with the negative self-talk, the more you become that, right? Which we all know. I mean, I think often the more you kind of, that's a negative, heavy energy. It's whatever your Achilles heel is, whatever you struggle with the most, you kind of attach to that and you slowly start to become that, right? We see that, hear that often. When you shift that and you actually are in that state of, and the reason, Jenny, you say, and I do this, right? Whether it's in Sanskrit or English, like I am peace, not I want peace. I'm, I am peace. I am light.
That's the being.
I am hope. I am joy. Slowly what happens is it reframes. So if I'm struggling and, I've got clients coming out, with this issue or that and dealing with, life, I don't attach and become that. I am, through this meditation practice, I am being different, and it's a light, and it's so palpable, even the outcome. I use the word outcome, we're in the West, but even just going about life, you see the outcome of that because you are now agreeing with the positives about yourself. You're agreeing with the good in yourself. And as you flow through life, that's what you're putting out there and that's what you're giving to others, right? Yeah. So even in just that state of becoming or being or recognizing who you truly are, is this in alignment with what you guys think, or is there anything you want to add there?
Two things come up. People need to understand that we spend a lot of our time accidentally worshiping the lower states because they identify with it. I suck. They're saying it under their breath and negative self-talk. You end up worshiping the lower states because you keep saying I am over and over again. It's like a worship. And that's obviously not that will take you down the spiral. So we're reversing that current in that flow. And I want to double emphasize to people, when the technique's done, you don't rush off. You sit with it at the end, and that's the best part. And one of my teachers used to say, it's like people driving to the ocean. They'll plan the drive all the way there. When they get there, they'll turn the car around and drive away. Sitting in
blasphemy to my soul. Blasphemy. Sorry, I had to.
Classic.
It's like the worst. I pulled over on the side of the road last night on the way to dinner, and I was like, "Here, we have to watch the sunset." And we just pulled over and sat right beside the truck to watch the sunset. Sorry.
No, it's perfect.
Beach.
It's perfect.
Love it.
And they won't do it. You see, they'll plan it. They get over to the, okay, 10 minutes are up. Ding, go check the emails. I'm like, no. It's just 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Absorb it. Be in it. And that's where the real shift, I think, happens.
I want to say something that is really important here around what you experience in meditation, because when you're talking about negative self-talk, it brought this into my memory because it's really vital. A lot of people who start meditating for the first time, it's very uncomfortable. It can be very physically uncomfortable because your body's not used to sitting in this certain way, but it also can be emotionally and mentally very uncomfortable because, some people will say, well, why am I feeling sad every time I sit to meditate, or I want to cry, or I'm really angry, or because that energy is already within you and it's been dormant and it's sitting in there. And now it's coming to your awareness that you're sitting and you have a lot of sadness or a lot of anger, or you're upset with somebody and you're ruminating about it. It is an opportunity for you to see what's going on for you and to work with it and to do something about it, because it's not happening. It's not coming at you because you're sitting in meditation. It's bubbling up that's already within you. And so it's okay if you start this practice and you're feeling all these things and thinking all these things, you're just bringing into your awareness what's actually already happening for you. And please get support around that, because you're not alone in that. Don't think you're doing it wrong. Don't think that you need to be perfect at this. No one is. I don't care how long anyone's been meditating. We know people who've been meditating for 50 years and they still talk about issues they have in meditation and like these dry spells where they're like really struggling to sit for 50 years. So we need to be gentle with ourselves.
Yeah. Permission to, Yeah, there's no, and I guess in saying that, like the formula that we keep talking about or whatever that I attach to here, we're not talking about perfection, right? And it's not like, I'm sober and, a lot of people count the days like, and I have, like, I'm almost 5 years and I think it's, it's something, a milestone to appreciate. But I also, when people are like, oh, but if you end up having a drink, like it's completely washed away and you have to start all over again. Same with meditation, right? Like if you miss a day or miss a week, like, oh, you meditate for 20 years, but because you took a day off, like you have to start over. Nobody's judging you, right? So there's no judgment around any of this. In fact, that's the opposite of what's happening. Jenny, you said something. My very first girlfriend, who I met in Costa Rica, taught me a lot. She's Buddhist, and she was going through something, and she mentioned to me one day, she said, she seemed very anxious. And I was like, well, you need to like get a hold of yourself. You need to deal with anxiety. And she's like, I can't, she used to go to sit circles and things like that within her practice. She's like, I can't even go sit because if I sit, I'll crack. It'll all come out. And I was like, I've thought about that a lot because I'm like, well, maybe, first of all, maybe it needs to, and you're just avoiding putting it off and it's just building up. And, like to your point, if you don't have a therapist or you don't have somebody to talk to or walk through things with, or, see someone like Jenny or Stephen, like if there is a lot that comes up, because it may, that's okay. It's an opportunity because it has to be cleared out of you. Like that's junk sitting in you and it's going to destroy you. So, but it doesn't mean that everybody that goes through this is going to have that experience either, right?
No.
Because I can say more so, I get lighter in those moments, right? I get more peace versus being, catatonic on the floor in tears. Like that's not usually what happens when I meditate.
My perception of this is the mind's almost like concentric circles. I mentioned the vortex around there. Like you have sensory stuff on the outside. You sit to meditate, and my little voice in my head says, hey, go have some chocolate. That's what mine says at nighttime, literally. Like it pulls me out for something sensory, sensual. Then there's like an analysis mind. So it'll keep like, you pull in, withdraw from it. You're kind of going through this circle and you start analyzing emails and you center and it pulls you back there. But then there's this like trapped emotional bubble or something. And so when you go through that, you start experiencing these deeper emotions, and that does happen, but you withdraw even through that in theory. So I think that's part of it, like those layers, and why people will feel sadness for a while, but sadness needs to be experienced. It's not bad. It's the
Right.
ego makes it bad, but it's actually really good and positive to do that. And then I should say out loud, it's because we are on the air, that there are some cases when meditation is not appropriate. And that would be PTSD, flashback triggers, serious stuff like that. That's when you go to see a clinical therapist. And that's something really important to Jenny and I when we teach this. It is not necessarily for everyone. And I want to say that.
How That's very, very important to mention. Thank you. And I actually am not familiar with this. So being someone who has dealt with a lot of PTSD, compound traumas, right? Like, how would someone know? Because the last thing we want to do is for someone to get into a state that they can't recover from. So someone that's been through a lot, like, how would someone know? Is there a way to gauge that?
It's difficult because we all are intuitive. Every single one of us have a really beautiful intuitive side. And I really feel that people who know they're not ready, know they're not ready. They know they can't, it's not time. I mean, I work with people who I don't recommend meditation yet because I can just tell they're not ready for it. It's not going to work for them to go inside of themselves. There's too much. They need to work it out externally for a little while. And so it's not like there's a list of this is how you know or you don't know. It's just you have to trust yourself. And if you have a hard time sitting for even a few minutes with your and people are afraid sometimes they'll close their eyes because of trauma.
Yeah. Right.
So and there are meditation techniques out there that eyes are open, by the way. I think Zen Buddhism, your eyes are open, right? When you meditate. So that's a great practice sometimes. First, maybe somebody who for other reasons.
Mhm.
I don't know, Stephen, do you have any thoughts around this, like in terms of like, how would you know?
Yeah, it's a case by case basis, I think. It's one of those ones where we
Yeah.
want to be cautious, of all of this and respectful. If someone says, like, when I do this, it freaks me out, like, okay, stop. Like it's just listen to yourself.
Okay.
There's that.
That's a good
That's a
indicator.
good indicator.
Trust.
The other thing is, it's really tricky here is like I've come across in Austin over the years, veterans groups meditating a lot, firefighters, police officers. And so you get to people like having that level of past experience. We would normally be a little cautious, but there's a lot of groups and a lot of benefit to that population. So really it's to me is a case by case basis. And if someone was going into a practice and there was those kind of flashback or something was triggered, you stop immediately. And there's not like
Right.
you sit and try to like work through it. Absolutely not. So I have a very strong feeling on that. And so we often find in
Okay.
those cases, you pivot more into, again, clinical therapy, somatic trauma informed, much more like
Yeah.
in the body. And that's
Yeah.
more acute
So-
cases, I guess.
So would you say it's a good indication? And I mean, coming from a place that I've had extreme trauma, as you both know, throughout what I've gone through, there used to be moments that I would close my eyes and I would go right back into flashbacks, right, of my accident or horrific tragedies. And maybe that season I couldn't
Yep.
I couldn't have, right? There's very likely chance that
Yeah.
that would have very much re-injured me in some way. But I think maybe that's a good indicator, Stephen. Thank you for sharing that, because if you close your eyes and you begin to meditate and you're getting really negative images or you're feeling fear, like in a way that like frightened, freaking out, that is a sign to stop. And I want to just draw a line between that versus people who, and I would like to touch on this. I know we're kind of coming to the end here soon, but I also want to talk about the person who has just keeps saying like, I want to meditate. I need to start a practice, and they keep putting it off. Right. And my initial thought is that's the ego just avoiding something that's really good for you, like eating broccoli at night. And because vegetables are good, as I keep telling my wife, we need to have more vegetables in our diet. That's a very different. Could you take a moment just to talk to that person who's like, I know it's good for me. I understand it in theory. I just, every time I think about going and doing it, I just don't. Like there's something, and it's different than closing their eyes and going into a really bad state, which I think, thank you for
Yes,
sharing that.
completely
So
different.
if you are listening and you have a lot of trauma, I would say try it. And if you immediately starting, maybe take a step back and find a clinician or someone or someone
I've
like
only,
these guys to help
yeah.
you. But if you're the other person,
Yeah.
let's talk to them for a moment.
Yeah. Jenny?
I would say start with 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes, just sit. And yeah, we're very, we strongly advocate to sit in the same space and create an environment for meditation for yourself, ideally facing east. There's all these little things that are helpful, but sit for 2 minutes and that's it, just to observe and then come out of it. And then, but every single day, do 2 minutes. Around the same time would be great. We definitely, we're encouraged to sit either and or as soon as you wake up in the morning, first thing upon awakening is really ideal, and or before you fall asleep at night. Those are ideal times, or even in the very middle of the day. But 2 minutes, like don't say, oh, I got to sit for 20 minutes and I have to do this right away. That's not going to be helpful probably. So if you start to just create the habit very slowly and consistently, consistency is really important, then your body, your soul craves that. As you all, you guys know, you're meditators, and you crave it. You're like, oh, I need to meditate. I need it. And then you'll just want naturally to sit for longer than 2 minutes.
Oh, yes.
It's just, then you're 5 minutes isn't enough. And then, 5 minutes sometimes, in the beginning feels like an hour. And then all of a sudden 5 minutes feels like a second. Like, wait, I'm not ready. Time gets really weird when you meditate. So start simple. Very, very simple.
And maybe it's perfectionists, right, that really want to do it all perfect. And this is one of those practices because it's a personal practice. And it's like, I mean, this is where I keep going back to the course, because I think because like my wife, and I'll just say my wife is always talking about, because she's like, oh, it's just hard to get into this state. And, she has started meditating, but like she talks about like, oh, just getting into that place, like my mind wanders and this and that, which I think we all struggle with, especially starting out. But one of the things I think for me, understanding what it is that happens and what I can expect through, like maybe you just want to start by just go listen to the entire course. And then you decide if you want to start meditating, because when you understand that, like, you're like, oh, okay, it's these, you have a plan, right? And I think that can be helpful too, because if you step into something and you don't have any grid or a plan, it's daunting. So why would you want to start? In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, yes, and yes. And one more I'll throw in. And this is semi-downloaded, okay? Just sort of came to me as you guys were speaking. I'm just going to go for it. But don't underestimate your capacity to cancel yourself out. And the self-sabotage mechanism is really powerful, okay? And the ego does not want to meditate. Your soul craves it. And I want to just sort of say this to people, like, if you can understand that's happening and the sabotage and watch it kind of in the third person almost, it's actually quite hilarious the amount of ways, if you see it happening, you can catch it. To me, one of the big antidotes here, if you can, is tapping into what I call human being superpower, which is doing something with another human being. So you get a buddy and say, come on, let's meditate together. And you create a little WhatsApp or text with 2 or 3 of you, one more will be fine. And then you ping each other. We're very good at telling other people what to do, not ourselves.
Oh, it's a gym buddy, right?
Same
thing.
And I think that makes a difference. You're like, come on, we're going to do it. We'll meditate tonight. What time you want to do it? I'll do it at 9. Okay, we'll do it at 9. Okay. And then you keep each other honest. And that's what comes to me somewhat intuitively.
It's so powerful. I even have people that text me every day after they meditate because they need accountability. So they'll just send me a little meditation emoji because it helps them, like, oh, I got to text Jenny, so I better meditate.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you guys, like find ways to help yourself to do it, to get it done. I love that idea, Stephen. Yeah. A meditation buddy is so powerful.
And isn't it cool? Like, I mean, I know Karen and I like to meditate together.
Oh, that's ideal. And you'll start to be telepathic. My husband and I do it all the time.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Great.
Very much so. It gets weird. I know Karen and I go through that. Oh, do we even need to use words? We just always know. It's so funny.
You don't.
Oh, this is good. I feel like there's so much to this. I feel like there might be an episode coming that we might need to talk about unpacking the ego and what that means, and not to focus on a negative or focus on something, but it's a part of what we deal with in this human experience that I think it would be probably, we use these words so casually. Oh, that's my ego talking. Oh, this is ego. It's like, what is this? What is it actually?
Not negative.
What is that? Okay, see, we need a whole episode just for me then, Jenny.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem. Right. We poo-poo it. It's actually not negative. And yes, we need to have
that's a whole episode.
A whole episode on this.
Yes. I love having teasers, clearly.
Like, your ego is like your body. Your body's not negative. You just got to go to the gym.
Oh, okay. We're going to pause there, because I'm going to go down, me and my questions. The last thing I want to talk about real quick, and I know we're already like hour 15 here, so thank you, listeners. If you have to pause this and come back, you're welcome to do so. We want to stay on track here. The one thing just to call out, we don't need to fully unpack this, but the criticalness to the breath work, right? That's a whole concept in and of itself, is breath work, right? Focusing on the breath. And so within the meditation practice, that is very much mutually inclusive, I guess, is as you're breathing, right? Following the breath. Any comments, or is there anything rather short you can mention around breath as it pertains to meditation practice?
Go ahead.
So the breath and the mind are in a symbiotic relationship, listening to each other. And so the undulations of the mind are undulations of the breath, and both ways, back and forth. So in our technique, we calm the breath, we slow it down like gentle waves, and the mind becomes gentle waves of rhythm. And eventually the waves on the surface come right down to almost hardly anything. Once the surface of the water then is relatively still, you can see and experience your reflection. The light shines on the water, and you see it and know it.
Hmm. You should write a book, Stephen.
I
You
am
see a
actually.
poet over here. Wonderful. More to come on that
That's a whole
as
episode
it
of the breath, even. I mean, it's so
all
much in
right.
there.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add, Jenny, on the breath work as you drink a
I
sip of
mean,
coffee or tea
it's water.
or water?
Well, there's a lot to say about breath work. But the main part of it is I feel like what I'll just say is it's part of our life force, and prana, we, in yoga philosophy, we call it pranayama, which is, it's controlling the life force energy. And yes, as Stephen said, it's very intertwined, the mind and the breath. And so when the mind is really busy, you will notice you might have the really anxious breath. So that that's calming the breath. When we watch the breath, the mind starts to calm down naturally. And so when you observe, it's slowing down. And we probably, maybe you guys have listening, you've heard of, yogis going breathless. That is a real thing, and that actually the ego can get really jarred whenever you are in a deep state of meditation and we stop breathing. It's like, "Oh, wait, because it's so jarring to the body. Like, "What do you mean I'm not breathing? I need to breathe." You're not gonna die. You're everything is calm, and you're shutting down the senses. You're closing off. You're detaching from this identification of the physical
Mhm.
form, and you're expanding into more of your energy body. You're connecting more with that. Stephen, I know you wanna say
No, no,
something.
no.
Go
I'm
ahead.
loving it. I'm loving it. So yeah,
Can I say, hold on, Stephen. Hold on. I'm sorry. I have to just jump in. The soul lives when the body passes on. So, right, the soul continues. So, what
Continue.
you're saying, Jenny, if we're so attached to the body being the primary, that body's going to pass on. That body's going to disintegrate. That body's going to die,
Yes.
and your soul will keep living. So, if you're in that state, right, it's actually possible for the body to take the back seat because the
100%.
soul can keep going. And that's why you
Yes.
hear these Buddhist monks do what they do.
Yes, and, Saint I think it's Saint Paul, right, that said, I die daily."
Hmm.
Because he's in meditation, he's in deep state. You're actually practicing consciously dying when you're in that kind of a deep state, and you're not attached to this physical form. You're you're pulling away from that to be in your true nature and connected with the divine. And so the goal, that's where we're headed towards, being so detached that we can just float away and say, "Yeah, oh, there it is.
Yeah,
But I'm
that's
still
right.
here," which is
That's
what
right.
everybody does when they have a near-death experience. With Nicole, which, people have when they are in a deep state of meditation. They're become that they're aware of the remembering that they are a divine being, that they're infinite, that this isn't who they really are. I mean, it's profound.
this is the
Mm.
true benefit of meditation, and we can say wellness and ever, but really that's very, very minor. Even rewiring the brain, which is awesome, but that's still secondary. When you'll know your true nature more and more, you'll identify with it more and more. So when this thing
Mm.
becomes old and tattered and wearing off, you're actually like you're pointing somewhere else, and so that's
Mhm.
it also in a way is like part of like if you meditate more, part of your escape strategy in the end, like it's a healthier way to age and
Mhm.
to eventually die in the body. And so
Yeah.
that's part of I think why it's so important.
Yeah.
Mm. Goodness, goodness, goodness. We could talk for 4 more hours, I think, on this. Wow, this has been unreal. I know we spoke a lot to the audience who may be newer or wanting to get into the practice. So for every seasoned meditator out there, thank you for the refresher. If you've listened, thank you for listening to the refreshing basics and also not basic stuff that we're unpacking here. I see in our future episodes talking about consciousness, different levels of consciousness. I see episodes coming out about ego. I do think we should talk about after this life, past life, and maybe as I've gone through near-death experiences and what that means. And Jenny's favorite topic, if you can see her on screen, she's beaming right now. So lots more to unpack here, and maybe we'll do another episode at some point on meditation and kind of check in. This is a life force for all of us. So, oh, thank you, Stephen, Mr. Ross. Thank you, Jenny, for your
Thank you,
wisdom
Nikki.
for these uncertain times that we're in. And I pray and hope that everyone that's listened has taken a nugget or 2 or 7 or 20 away for their own practical life. Final tips. Let's just end with a couple tips of to the person getting started, and then to the person who's fallen off the wagon and needs to continue. So any tips that you can offer someone who is wanting to get started in a meditation practice?
Be gentle with yourself. Start very small, just a few minutes a day. Consistency is the key. Get support, and we're here for you for sure. Stephen and I are extremely passionate about this, and it will get easier. Just trust that you can do it. Anybody can do it. And we know there are, as we mentioned, there are people who might not be quite ready for it, but give it a try and you will see massive differences in your life.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say something a bit more esoteric. Thank you, Jenny. When you meditate, it creates a ripple effect in the collective consciousness. So it's spiritual service also when you do it, and it makes it easier for others. So if you care about the world, if you want a touch of light, touch of peace, rippling across, however this works, the ether, then it's a good practice to do. It's very giving in that way. And then lastly, I would say is, find a circle, find a group, meditate with people. It's easier in a group. So find that if you can. There's a synergy that happens in a group.
And for the person who has a practice and just is struggling to get back in there, falling off the wagon and giving, maybe feeling shameful about it, what do you say to them?
Remember how you felt when you were meditating.
There you go. Brilliant.
And I'm a Texan, so I can say this with confidence, but be like the cowboy. You fall off that horse, you dust it off, you put the saddle back on, and you keep going. And no shame, no, don't worry about it. You just get back up and you stay with it if you can. But I would say inspiration would be the practical tip. Re-inspire yourself. Again, with groups, go one time to a group, go one time to a place for meditators, take a little retreat for the weekend, and that'll help you lift you back in to the saddle.
Yeah. Thank you. And my tip is I have to tell you, go listen to this Learn to Meditate course. I do. Wisdom, we don't ever want to promote on here, and I don't even care today because it was so transformative. If anybody put a course out like this, I would tell you to go see it. But jump on if you are curious at all and want to see kind of like a formula and a practice. I mean, from how you sit to all the details, it transformed my practice and it gave me a practice. You guys gave me, and I am ever grateful. Thank you both for passing on what you've learned and shared. And it has changed me, and I thank you. And so wisdompathways.life, I think it's under like resources or online courses or something. It's a self-guided, I think Thinkific is the platform we use. And as always, it's, there's suggested cost and value for these things, but I know more than anything, we just want you to have that. And so it's pay what you can afford or what you feel comfortable with. We believe in the gift economy. So again, I'm not promoting this. I know they're probably cringing right now. This is not why we do the podcast, but it is a tool that has changed me, and I cannot not share it with you. So please check it out if you're at all interested, or talk to a friend that may have a practice as well and learn from them. So, as always, it's wonderful to be with you today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. I appreciate all of our loyal followers who've been staying on this journey with us, and more to come. Next episodes, if you haven't caught a glimpse, we have mini-sodes that are coming out in between these longer episodes. So jump in. If you have questions, my dear friends, Stephen and Jenny are channeling and providing messages through their spirit guides. So if you have difficult questions, no question is too difficult because we don't hold all the answers. We seek them just like you. Please submit those questions to us. Connect at wisdompathways.life. Send those questions. If you need any clarification or help, please reach out to us. And as always, we love you. And remember, you do have a path forward. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you are leaving feeling more peace, clarity, and light as you navigate your journey forward. While there's no promotional purpose behind our podcast, we understand that things can arise that may be helpful to process or work through. Jenny and Stephen are co-founders of Wisdom Pathways, a sacred place of personal transformation. They offer soul mediumship, somatic healing, and spiritual resources for all walks of life. If you feel lost or stuck, are in transition, or awakening to something more, visit wisdompathways.life, or you can email any one of us at connect@wisdompathways.life. Tune in again this time next week if you'd like, and as always, share with a friend who might benefit as well. Peace and love.